Are you a mom who loves fun, momming, and protecting your family? If you want to meet some of the most amazing people from all over the gun world and beyond, you are in the right place. Tune in for encouragement and sometimes just courage for moms and women just like you, who are curious about shooting but are intimidated or just don't know where to start. Hey, all you tough mothers out there. I have a very special guest today. I have Kristin Benton. Kristin is a mom of 2 middle school girls and is the owner of She Shoots Training in Nolensville, Tennessee. Her passion is teaching brand new female shooters, especially those with trauma backgrounds, and help them to discover what they're capable of doing, the hard things. When she's not teaching, Kristin is the state coordinator for Moms of Liberty, Tennessee, and is active in the fight to protect parents' rights in the public school system. Kristin, thank you so much for joining me. And I just can't wait to hear how you got into She Shoots Training and Moms of Liberty.
Yeah, thanks so much. I'm so excited to be here, and I will tell you all those things. Just ask.
Fantastic. So how did you get into shooting? Have you always been a shooter, or was this something that you developed later on?
Yeah, I grew up with guns. I grew up in Northwest Iowa. So some of my earliest memories are shooting birds off the swing set in my backyard with a BB gun and then the pellet gun, and then moving on up to other things. But then probably close to 20 years ago, I got my first handgun of my own, and pistol shooting became my real passion. So it's always been a part of my life.
That's really cool. So how did you go from just kind of a habitual shooter to passionate shooter to helping moms and women, really?
Yeah, I think like many or most serendipitous, wonderful things in our lives, it's purely accidental. And it really started when my best friend's husband passed away in the fall of 2019. He was a Metro police officer for 24 years. And after he died, she came to me and said, I have his guns and I've never shot a gun. He always protected us. I don't know what to do. Can you help me? And obviously I wasn't going to say no to my best friend in a moment like that. And she has, 2 teenage daughters. And obviously the answer is yes. I had taught some other people, to teach along the way, sort of recreationally and as a friend, like, oh yeah, let's go to the range. I'll teach you how to, operate gun and shoot and, this and that. And then she asked me, well, fast forward about 2 months and, America seems to be imploding. There's civil unrest everywhere. Like, people are watching the world burn and citizens are scared and they're buying guns left and right. And, over 60% of them were the first time gun owners were women. And I have a background in coaching and empowering women to do hard things anyway. And on top of that, we had COVID. So my other business, which is in the travel industry, fell flat. And people started asking me how I could teach them to shoot, or would I do that? And one day, one of the ladies just gave me a wad of cash and said, thank you. And the light bulb moment, I was like, wait, I can do this for money. And
that is so cool.
Yeah. And that's awesome. That was the beginning of the end.
So how many women have you kind of like coached through and like, what does that look like for you?
Yeah, it looks like a couple of different things. So I offer classes as well as private instruction. And, like you said in the beginning, my most favorite student is the really nervous, scared shooter that comes in, that's shaking and not even sure she can touch a gun. And the sight of a gun is making her knees tremble. That's my most favorite one, because those women don't believe in themselves in that moment. And they're scared of this thing that they've created in their head. And I love helping them break out of that to see like, wait, I can do this. And because that translates to every area of their life then. So I start with a class that it's kind of a handgun demystification class, if you will. This is how a gun works. This is what it does. This is, these are your safety rules, all of the good basic stuff. No one fires a single gun in that class. They leave understanding how guns work, and they leave knowing how to clear a gun, how to drop a mag, rack a slide, all that stuff. And then from there we go into, hey, come out to the range. Let's shoot. And we, can go on up from there, but that's how that works.
That is so cool. I've got to ask you, because like this is always so fun for me, because I've also had that where, I've brought girlfriends with me onto the range and they're terrified to pull the trigger and they're shaking and they just have so much anxiety over it. And then when they're able to overcome it, it's like you can see like this wave of like not just relief, but empowerment. And I
Yeah.
love seeing that. So do you have like a favorite story that like, or favorite moment that you've had with somebody that you're just like, oh, that was so great and want to share it to empower other women?
Oh, yeah, I have. There are really three of them, but probably the one that sticks out in my mind the most. And it was very early on when I first was realizing that this was more than just teaching women how to shoot guns, but this was about changing women's lives. And she was recently divorced, single mom. And she talks about it very openly and publicly that her marriage was very abusive and remains in an abusive, pseudo co-parenting kind of situation with this individual. And she is scared of him. And we were at the range, and the first time she shot, we always just put one round in because you never know what's going to happen. So let's just start with one round there and nobody else gets shot. It's great. She fires that one round, puts it down, and she just stands back shaking, and tears, like so many tears. And then I just, hugging. There's always a lot of hugging and crying on the range with me for some reason. But this, yeah, it's fine. Don't wear mascara. It's not needed. And I just said, "Are you okay? What are you feeling?" And she said, "I can do this. I don't have to be afraid."
Wow.
And that was like a huge moment for me of what a shift had just instantly happened in her life that really changed her life in that moment of like, I don't have to be afraid. I mean, can you imagine the moment when you realize that about your life? Like, whew, wow.
That is a incredibly powerful moment, especially for women who have been through trauma or who have been abused or in abusive situations, because it's never just one instance. It's usually a lifetime of small abuses that lead up to an abusive marriage or relationship, right? And so they've had these preconceived notions in their mind that they are less than, they are weaker than, they don't have the ability to stand up for themselves or protect themselves. And so then they get out of one abusive relationship into another because
Yes.
they feel like that's the type of person they have to be with to feel safe, even though that person is 90% of the reason they don't feel safe.
That's right.
So giving them that empowerment and letting them overcome that fear, like you said, translates to everything, right? It's not
Everything.
just personal protection. It's self-esteem. It's getting rid of anxieties of fears, because I think a lot of women live in fear, right? We are afraid for our children. We're afraid for our safety. We're afraid of letting our families down. There's
Yeah.
so many pressures that our culture and our society has kind of put on women, and these standards that are so high and unattainable, it makes us feel out of balance and anxious, right? Like we see all these
Yeah.
perfect Pinterest moms and we're like, we're less than them. We see these people posting all these pictures on social media about their perfect families and we feel less than. And
Yeah.
we see all these images and marketing and we feel less than. And then we do something in our lives because we have all of these self-defeating beliefs. And then we fail because we don't have coaches like you or people to help them. And that reinforces that behavior. And then they just live further and further in anxiety and fear. And that the fact that you're able to help them in like a loving and nurturing way and not just like a suck it up and do it,
Yeah.
is amazing. So thank you. I really appreciate that.
Yeah. It's a privilege. It really is. I don't feel like a thanks is in order. That's kind, but it really is just, it's such a privilege to be a part of and witness that moment. It's really amazing there. And I can tell tale after tale of ladies that I've worked with that have their own story very much like that. And it's just every time it's just like, wow, I'm a part of something that's making a difference. And it's just indescribable.
That is really cool. And I think as other women, like I don't think that only women should coach women, right? Like I think that you have to find the right coach for you, the
Yep.
person that you click with. But I think typically, especially women that have been through those negative experiences with men, need women to help them, encourage them. Like, hey, I
Yeah.
understand, I empathize, I'm like you, and I can help you overcome that. And then if they want to get, crazy and tactical, like I kind of
Go for it.
move
Yeah.
on, like the gun guys.
Yeah.
But to have somebody like you that can help them walk through that is incredible. So how does that kind of like, so with like your shooting and like your development, do you do any competitions? Do any of the girls do competitions, or is it strictly like, just like, let's start in the basics and like, let's get you comfortable, or kind of how do you progress with the women that way?
Yeah, I have no interest personally in competition shooting at all. I just have no appetite for it. So my passion is really just in civilian and everyday carry. And those are the ladies I work with. And if any of them ever want to decide they want to go into a competition type setting, I'm happy to connect them with some amazing coaches that can help them be great at that. That's just not, it's just not even an interest of mine. Yeah.
No, I get it. And
Yeah.
everybody's kind of like in that, like, I don't like competition, but I do like competing with myself, which is why I enjoy shooting, because you can see measurable differences. You can do it by yourself and you don't necessarily have to join a competition, which is something really cool about the sport. Because I don't know too many other sports that maybe golf, but that's a lot of driving and drinking.
It's a lot of, golf is way too slow for me. Let's pick something else.
But then there's running, and running's terrible. So
running is truly terrible.
It's kind of right. That is why you buy the gun. So you don't have to run. I don't know how many times I have to say
Thank
this.
you.
Yeah.
Yeah.
See, it's
yeah.
all big running's trying to like push on you is the ideology that like running is like,
that's right.
Great, but it's not. Yeah. It's terrible. Sorry to all you runners out there. I'm sure you guys are like screaming like, it's amazing. What are you talking about?
Yeah, good. You can run for me.
Yeah, exactly. I will give you impetus.
I donate my miles to you.
You're welcome. You go. See there. So what about your girls? Like, do they shoot with you as well, or?
Yeah, yes. So my girls are so funny. They're 13 and 11, and they've got their first little, their Red Ryder BB guns, and they never did shoot their eyes out. That's good.
Oh, good.
And we go and take them to turkey shoots. So we do turkey shoots in the fall. And then both of them shoot handguns. My oldest one, my 13-year-old, who, by the way, is taller than me. She's 5'7".
Wow.
Yeah, 13 and 5'7". And she enjoys shooting quite a bit. It's been the first time I took her really seriously shooting with a pistol. There was, again, with her, and I didn't expect it. I just thought, it'd be like a fun mother-daughter thing, like, hey, come do this thing that mom likes, and maybe, you'll learn something and it'll spark something for you later. But it really, 13 is such a hard time, middle school, and you're trying to figure out who you are and what you stand for and where you fit in the world. And it's very confusing, a lot of self-doubt, a lot of comparison, and just really hard. And so she's in the middle of that. And we go shooting, and she just left with the biggest smile on her face. And, I'm friends with all the guys there. They all know me. And, I'm the crazy girl that comes in and shoots the guns and, does all the crazy things. And she really, really latched onto the camaraderie that we all had.
Yeah.
And then she'd be like, can we go back to the range? Because she felt like she belonged there. And I was like, okay, girl, you're 13. And if there's any place I want you to feel like you belong and it's like your people, this is the place.
Right.
For sure. So that was really cool. And then my 11-year-old, she likes the idea of shooting, and she does go shooting with me. But she doesn't care for it in the same way that my 13-year-old does. That said, I will never forget sitting here in this very spot on a Friday night when my 11-year-old, who at the time was 10, had a friend sleeping over, and they were sitting at the dining room table eating chicken nuggets and tater tots. And I'm working, not really paying attention, and their little voices are chatting and they're giggling and it's all really cute. And then I hear her, just like it got a little bit quieter, not like whispery, but just like they weren't talking as boisterously. And whenever the volume goes down with kids, you kind of like perk up your ears, like you're like, wait,
what's being destroyed? Mm-hmm. What havoc is about to start?
Exactly. So I'm sitting here, typing away, doing my work, and I just hear them talking. I'm just like, look, it's kind of quieter. Like, just, I think subconsciously I was just kind of curious, like, oh, what are they talking about? And then I hear my sweet, precious little 10-year-old, who, opposite of my 13-year-old, she's always been in the 3rd percentile. She looks like a kindergartner. She's super tiny. And she goes, so what's your favorite, the Glock 44, or do you like a Ruger with a suppressed Ruger? And I was like, girl, I was like, hey, come here. I'm like, and then I heard her say, well, mine's the Glock 44. So I was like, okay, come here. I'm like, first of all, good choice on the Glock. Second, not maybe what we need to be talking about when friends come over, but but also real proud of you. So,
Yeah, exactly. I think there's a lot of those moments where you're just like, I know that this is like a disconnect. Like they should be discussing like TV shows or like
right.
toys, but still proud of you.
Yeah. Yeah. Like my fifth grader, so like, what do you like? Like, girl, she doesn't even know what those things are.
Oh, that's so
Funny.
cool. That's
Yeah.
awesome. So is that kind of like what got you into the Moms for Liberty, or was there something else that kind of got you into that program, or not program,
So
but
Moms for
organization?
Liberty is a national organization started out of Florida in January. And then there are various chapters around the country. We're in 28 states now, I believe. And then I coordinate all the chapters in Tennessee. And I got involved with that because I pulled my kids out of school last year to homeschool. I didn't like what was going on. I didn't want them to wear a mask, and everybody makes their own decisions. So I pulled them out and homeschooled. And the goal was always to get them back into brick and mortar school. And so I started in preparation for that this fall. I started kind of dialing back into what's going on in our local school district, like what's the temperature, what's happening. And what I found was really alarming is kids were virtual and remote learning and all this stuff, and they found things in the curriculum that were really dangerous and really scary around CRT, anti-American, gender fluidity, anti-nuclear family, anti-church, all, anti-police. And this is in the ELA curriculum. And I was like, what am I sending my kids back to? So I started listening a little bit more and hearing about the different, groups that are kind of making a stand on different things. And I reached out to the chapter chair and said, I'd like to meet and learn more about what is it that Moms for Liberty is about. And if it's a place where I could get involved, I'd like to do that. Met with her. That was almost 2 months ago now. And I've been very involved in that. And so our whole thing is about parents' rights. It's not necessarily about masks or curriculum. It's about parents' rights, and that parents' rights don't stop at the classroom door.
Right.
And we're fighting that hard all over America. And then, just this week, 3 days ago, we had a school board meeting. I'm in Williamson County. And when I say that, some people might be like, aha, Williamson County. We've made national news. We had over 2,200 parents come out in support of parental rights on Tuesday. We were on, Clay Travis came out and he spoke and supported, parental rights. Got picked up by Shannon Bream, Tucker, Hannity. And then just yesterday, Biden made a statement. There's a horrible video going around about, a very short interaction at the end of the night between two guys that had nothing to do with our organization. But that's what the news story is now, is, these anti-maskers threatening people. But so Biden's taken notice, or whoever his handler is has told him to talk about it. And so here we are. Good week.
It's definitely kind of, the world is getting so crazy and divided and polarized, and it's frustrating because of the crucial things that we really do need to come together and protect our kids are kind of getting lost in all of that,
Yeah.
right? Like it's all these like diversion stuff. And it's like, ultimately, as a parent, you either gave birth to, like you did, or adopted, like I did, your child. Like you have raised that child in your home, and you're trying to instill beliefs and strengths and, like patterns in their lives that will serve them going forward. Mm-hmm. And it's up to each parent to raise their kid, not to the government or to mob rule, which is crazy that I even have to like make that point.
Yeah.
And typically you can vote with your feet and you can vote with your dollars, right? You can go, okay, well, if this school's teaching that, I can just go over to that school. But now if like it's all schools, it's like, well, now how do I manage that? And it's crazy that we're taking power away from parents and deciding on how to raise their kids and what they should be taught. It's insane to me. And, like we're talking, about small children, that sex and gender and all that shouldn't even be part of they should be learning how to read and write. That's right. And be decent human beings. We don't need to talk about sex and gender, all that. Like, let them be kids. Like, there's just so many different layers to it. And it's frustrating and disturbing to hear that you have to fight for that right to educate your child. And it's not like you're going out there and trying to teach them to hate people. You're just like, no, this is a relatively new concept that we are now mandating that we indoctrinate our children in, and it's just nuts.
It is. And I think the scariest thing about it is that it actually isn't terribly new. This has been happening, for 20 years, and it's only just now come to the forefront because kids were home last year. Right. And parents were sitting right behind them, watching over their shoulder as this curriculum is being rolled out about, this anti-racism, critical race theory curriculum is telling kids. This is how it all came up in Williamson County. Is there was a family, the dad is white, the mom is Asian, and the kid came home, a second grader, suicidal, hating his dad and hating the white half of him because of what he was learning in school. So we had a team of over 30 parents spend 6 weeks and more than 1,200 hours deep dive into all of the curriculum and the teacher's manuals being taught in our K-5 here. And it was just all of it, K-5, just day after day, week after week, over all those years, just dark and depressing and angry material. And so that's all. So you got CRT, and then that's all part of this whole thing of social emotional learning, which is the real belly of the beast and the real battle. But yeah, so my life is very consumed with all things Moms for Liberty right now, and I don't regret it for 1 minute.
Well, thank you for fighting for parents' rights to raise their kids how they're supposed to, and thank you for pouring in other women and teaching them and empowering them to protect themselves, to get into shooting, to be passionate about it, and just encouraging them to find that strength within themselves to just do the things that they want to do in life and not just constantly have these self-defeating beliefs about what they're able to do or how they can protect their kids or protect themselves. So I think that's really amazing. Kristin, is there anything else that you want to say to any of the moms out there that are new to shooting or, want to get into shooting but don't know how, or even, that are a little worried about what their kids are going through in school? I'm going to leave it with you to kind of share your wisdom.
Yeah, I think so. A couple of things. The one thing, and I say it sort of tongue in cheek, but I really think this is an important message, and I think this will resonate when I say it. For women that are looking to get into shooting, don't let a guy talk you into the pink gun. If you want the pink gun, that's great, but otherwise, don't trust a guy that his first thing. Don't trust anyone in a gun shop whose first instinct is to send you to the pink gun because they don't know what they're talking about. And then after that, as far as, what's happening in the world and parent rights, I would just say, remember that, and this comes down to also with our Second Amendment rights, right, is that we don't co-parent with the government, and we don't make co-decision, like co-family, co-reign with the government. We're in charge of our own lives and our own sovereignty. And that's really important. So anyone who, is interested in more about that, I would say, look in your community, look for the people who are fighting and speaking truth, and join up with them, and don't sit back, because at the end of the day, no one else is coming to save you. There's no one coming to help you. You have to stand up, and we all have to take a stand where we're able to.
Thank you. Wise words. No pink gun. Stand up for yourself.
Yeah, that feels about right. Yeah, I'm done with that.
Awesome. Kristin, you are amazing. Thank you so much for sharing your wisdom and coming and talking to me on this show. I really appreciate it. Moms out there, if you are in the Tennessee area or just want to talk to Kristin, I'm going to put her info on her show notes page at momsloveguns.com. Go to the episodes. You can see all the information, listen to us, watch us again. And most importantly, don't go out there and be afraid and be oppressed. Go out there, be not afraid.
Yeah, I love it. Thank you so much for having me.
Thanks, Kristin.
Great job. You made it to the end. You are one tough mother. If you enjoyed this podcast and want to support the work that we do and keep the good loving coming, subscribe, rate, and review on iTunes, Spotify, wherever you're listening. What's that? You're one of those crazy mother followers that wants more of this nonsense? You got it. Subscribe to the Moms Love Guns YouTube channel, follow us at Moms Love Guns on Instagram, and join our free private Facebook group to connect with other women just like you in an encouraging and non-judgmental community. If you want to share even more love, share your new favorite community with a friend or all of your friends, maybe even a few enemies, just to be safe. Get out there, overcome your fears, be not afraid. You have got this.